folks. Welcome back again to the Fanholes Blog Spot. We are going to do a sidecast tonight. Haven't done this one in this kind of sidecast in a while. We're actually not going to be watching a TV show this time. We're actually just going to be kind of going over some comic news that's come out recently. We would go over the issues, but hey, they're not out yet. So we're just going to kind of give you our opinions on some, I don't know, I guess you would say headlines, recent events that have come forth, mainly having to do with DC Comics. We have our regular fan holes tonight, except for Brian. He is unavailable tonight. He's having some work stuff to do tomorrow, so he has to get up early, so that's always good. He's being responsible. Always a proper choice. We're going to be talking about two main things tonight. Earth 2.
Earth 2 is going to be written by James Robinson, and then it's also going to have art from Nicola Scott, and, it's supposed to star the Justice Society, which up to this point we haven't really seen in the new 52 for DC Comics. And then, Robinson said this about Earth 2. He basically says that, Earth 2 is a world that's very like our own, but at the same time vastly different. It has known great conflict and danger, a dark menace defeated, but at a great cost to both the Earth and to its superheroes of that time. Now, in the present, as new menaces emerge to attack the Earth, so new heroes must emerge too, learning to work as a team, or perhaps society is a better word, while facing these new threats head on. Who are these heroes? Will their powers include speed, bestial fury, and maybe even green light? Wait and see. So, and, it's just basically,
JSA for the new 52, more or less.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Derek. By the way, he is obviously here this evening, so he'll be adding his contribution. He also obviously knows a lot more about it than I do. The other topic we're going to be talking about is some Watchmen, more or less, prequels coming out. Not a lot of information has been shown about this, except for a couple of covers and the basic idea of what they're going to be doing. We're going to be talking about that as well. I will give you my views on that as the show progresses. For everybody else, though, who is listening, just let you know, I am Tony Chinkla. I am still here. Derek is also here, obviously. And who else is here tonight?
Hi, it's Mike, and I recorded this sidecast 35 minutes ago.
Hey, this is the Earth 2 Grimlock, and thankfully I do not have a boob window.
Nice. I'm going to kind of stave off on Earth 2 just for a minute, just because Derek and Justin are a little bit more knowledgeable about it. I think they'll be able to give you a little bit more insight. I'm going to go with the less-known topic first, because me and Mike have a couple of opinions on that, so I thought it'd be a little bit more interesting. This is just going to be kind of a roundtable thing, no real topic, not, ooh, do you hate it, do you love it, just us pretty much giving our opinions. Watchmen, as you're very well aware of, is a classic by most standards. It was made into a movie. It was an 80s miniseries, and it basically delved into some classic characters that DC didn't actually create, but they weren't really willing to let our good friend Alan more or less deal with Batman and Superman and stuff. So they were like, hey, you could totally have Night Owl and Rorschach and, all these other characters who were similar to, guys.
Well,
like, it was more like a Blue Beetle and stuff, right?
Yeah, it's more. Yeah. They originally it was supposed to be all the Charlton guys, so they were kind of anagrams for, So Dr. Manhattan was, Captain Atom. The comedian was the Peacemaker. Rorschach was more like the Question. And Ozymandias is more like like the Thunderbolt guy or whatever.
It wasn't Alan Moore took characters that were already existing. He basically wanted to use characters that DC had already, because the Charlton comics were not DC characters either, but he wanted to take those and make the Watchmen story, but DC was like, no, we got plans for them. So they're like, can't use those, but he just basically, like Derek said, is like, oh, well, Blue Beetle is, Night Owl, that kind of thing. So, yeah, he kind of made the same story he wanted to tell, and, he just basically took his own little off track of it. I guess since the movie was popular, or it did make some money, or hell, who knows what happens in comics, DC has decided to release some more or less prequels. And whenever I hear prequels, I think of angels and how much you look like one. In other words, bad. Prequels bad.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Well, they're calling it before Watchmen, so
Yeah.
that's what they're basically saying they're working on, and then there's going to be like 7 miniseries apparently. There's Rorschach and the Minutemen and Comedian, Dr. Manhattan, Night Owl, Ozymandias, and Silk Spectre. It looks like Darwin Cook is the writer-artist on Minutemen. He's the writer on Silk Spectre. Len Wein and Jay Lee are doing Ozymandias. Our good buddy who's just saying, J. Michael Straczynski, it looks like he's writing Night Owl and Dr. Manhattan. Adam Hughes is doing the art on Dr. Manhattan, and Andy and Joe Kubert, the Kubert brothers, are doing the art on Night Owl. Brian Azzarello is doing the writing for The Comedian and Rorschach, and they got J.G. Jones and Lee, I'm going to mess this up, Lee Bermejo, I think is how you say it, but I may have messed up the name. But
it might be Bermejo.
Bermejo? Yeah, see, I figured I would. So.
No problem. You actually know the creators and stuff. I haven't even really looked that much to it. I looked at the covers themselves, but the only really question I have before I go into any kind of rant is for all the fanholes, whoever wants to pipe up, just jump in. Do you think this is a good idea? Because Watchmen is pretty self-contained. Is this really something worth doing?
I am frankly surprised it took them this long to try and milk this cow.
Yeah.
Pretty much. It seems to me like they should have done this when the movie came out. Watchmen is good. It's a great classic comic story, but I never thought of it as sort of a sacred cow or anything.
No, true. True. But I would prefer, and I know he's a curmudgeon-y asshole, but it'd be nice if more had a little input into it. But I know, doing that is getting blood from a stone. It's you want to work on some more Watchmen comics? Fuck yeah,
I guess there's a bunch of sides to it where it seems like, most people talk about, DC and their litigation and lawyers and all this other stuff. And then, at the same token, I guess, it looked like Alan Moore, way back when was actually, it's kind of funny to me that they mention how it's this, like what you guys are talking about. People are like, oh, it's a sacred cow. It was finite. And I'm kind of like, well, it wasn't really written that way. I guess I could understand the point of view of people that say, well, you don't need to tell anything about what came before. And that's why my personal take would be I'm kind of surprised they never bothered to make any, sequelizations or continuing adventures.
I would actually be fine with sequels, because that makes more sense to me,
because it seems like, I don't know, it just seems like there was already the groundwork laid to do more stuff. And even Alan Moore mentioned before, he was like, oh yeah, I would have done it if you guys hadn't fucked me over, type thing. But he basically is like, oh, it's too late now. Now I don't want anything to do with it, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, I kind of agree with Mike.
Sir, my toe has been sufficiently stubbed.
yeah, I guess his toe's been stubbed and he doesn't want anything to do with it. But I kind of agree with Mike. I don't know when it became this super sacred cow.
Well, if it helps, honestly, my main reason for why is it not a good idea really kind of branches off from something else Mike said. Is why so long now? It's yeah, there was a movie recently, but still at the same time, this is an 80s comic, and it's kind of I kind of did the same thing when Miller himself did a sequel to The Dark Knight Returns. I'm okay, not only was it bad, obviously, but it's this story was so old. It's why go back to this concept just because it sold really well and, we might be able to make some money off of it, which is obviously what they're wanting to go for.
I kind of feel like they're trying to prep or test the waters for Watchmen 2, the movie. They're trying to get it back into the, eye of the comic going public. So that when, they announce, I'm pretty sure it's in the planning stages now, but when they, formally announce, we're doing a Watchmen 2 movie, it'll be in...
Watchmen 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah.
I would watch Electric Boogaloo, Watchmen 2.
Watchmen 2, more dongs than ever before.
Watchmen 2, Electric Pikachu.
Pika, Pika, Pika.
Yeah, nothing in comics is sacred. Bucky's been brought back. Uncle Ben has been made into the Silver Surfer or something. That was Ant-Man, But like, yeah,
did you just bring up golden oldie?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the point. It's like, yeah, I mean, I don't really think it's a sacred cow. I'm just like, at the same time, I am a big believer in if you do something that is really, really good, which Watchmen still is. I mean, I bash on Moore for going fuck nuts crazy in his later years, but he's still a great writer. He still does some classic stuff, and that's a really high bar. And if these comics come out and they're even half as good, or if they are entertaining at least, I don't really mind. But just it is that fanboy, taint of like, oh, this could suck so hard. So, I mean, I will admit a little bit of a bias. It's not so much for the sacred cow thing. This is like, you're going with a universe that was done really well. You have to do as well at least, I don't expect you to surpass it, but at least do as well.
I don't know, maybe I'm pessimistic in my old age, but I like Alan Moore's stuff a lot. I don't think anybody, I'm interested in some of the creative teams, like mostly it's, Darwin Cook. I'm kind of curious about his stuff on the various titles, like his Minutemen title and the one that he's actually going to provide the art for. And I have to admit, the idea of seeing Adam Hughes like draw some comics appeals to me no matter what it is. So like there's that element to it. But, in the back of my head, I'm thinking you're not going to surpass Alan Moore. Like it's probably just going to be Dr. Manhattan, walking in a square around Laurie's bed for like 12 issues and contemplating some crap. If it's anything like the last Superman run, which is god fucking awful boring. But for me, like, I guess I'm not thinking of it in terms of them trying to prep the public for Watchmen 2 or isn't this such a terrible idea because Watchmen's a sacred cow? Like, my thing was, to me, this seems like an answer to, like, a retort to something that Todd McFarlane said, which was basically like, he's like, they asked him what he thought about the new 52, and he said something to the effect of, well, I would have spread it out a little more, and do more books. And, he was basically like, he was kind of saying spread out the releases of all the new #1 issues so people weren't so overwhelmed.
He's from Brooklyn, Canada now.
Yeah.
I would have taken the 52 and I would have put out 6 or 7 new nomic each month and spread it for 7, 8, 9 months. Right. And then you would have had people talking about those new books. Book, comic books.
But to me, this is kind of like an answer to that because yeah, you had all these people talking about the new 52, and 6 months have gone by, and maybe the newness of that, the eventness of that has worn off. But here's another, either left hook or another, right punch from DC, because now, whether they love it or hate it, all these people are talking about, before Watchmen and how it's sacrilegious that they're making prequel comics of it, or people saying like, oh, dude, these artists are pretty cool. I think I might check this out. The opposition to it is like, well, Alan Moore screwed up, all kinds of old stories, whether it's, Lost Girls or League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and that kind of stuff, and people are like, he didn't seem to care about, Dorothy Gale and Peter Pan and all this other stuff when he was having them do all kinds of orgies or whatever.
Maybe he cared a little too much about them.
Well, whatever. Yeah, whatever the case may be, like that's kind of like the opposing, viewpoint to it. Whereas, the other people, obviously Watchmen meant a lot to them. And, they like, kind of like what you were saying, Tony, they don't want another Dark Knight Strikes Back or whatever, where you're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever read, type thing. Where, they want to have their good memories of the original material, being, Dark Knight Returns or Watchmen, sort of unsullied by a mediocre kind of cash grab, prequelization or whatever, which, I can understand that.
Or do you think that, like, maybe DC, and I mean, Marvel does it too, so I'm not, like, just calling out DC. Do you think they just got too much into event-itis? Everything has to be an event. They have to make all these...
No, I mean, I think a lot of these people, whether it's Apple or any kind of store, it's all about the marketing. So, I don't know. There are comics from the New 52 that I enjoy reading and everything, but it doesn't mean that, like, all across the board, all 52 of those comics are, like, the greatest comics that have ever been put out. But they got people's attention and they're making DC money and knocked Marvel off the top spot, at least, with the top 10 and for a couple months. So, they want to keep that, that steam train going, and that one of the ways they thought to do that was, hey, we'll make a bunch of Watchmen comics and get everybody's panties in a bunch. And to me, like, you know what? It worked, because you got Alan Moore talking about stuff, and there are people on his side signing petitions, and then you got all the people that are like, fuck Alan Moore, he messed up Mr. Hyde and the Invisible Man, and and I'm going to go read these comics because I like these other guys. I mean, the only thing I was hesitant about is buying anything that JMS does from now on, because he seemed kind of like a twit with that one Facebook message. But other than that, like the rest of it, I was kind of like, whatever. Maybe I'll read some of these, maybe I won't. But like I said, the one thing that I was kind of interested in the most was the Darwin Cook stuff. But other than that, like it's like I'm kind of like, hey, it's getting people's attention. So
yeah, I mean, never a bad thing to get people wanting to read it, if nothing else. What do you think about it, Justin? Are you pro, neg, or fuck it, I don't care?
I kind of don't care. Like, I'll back up some of Derek's comments, like, going back to, like, Alan Moore, like, messing up characters. Like, I'll just say, like, his version of James Bond, who he called Jimmy Bond, in, like, one of the League comics, like, where he's portrayed as basically, like, a crazy rapist. Like, that really made me grumpy. So I don't think he really has a leg to stand on when he's like, oh, you're going to mess with my characters, or, whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, unlike, like, the classic, Siegel and Schuster thing, it's like, you made that for DC. Those are DC's characters now, so, I mean, they can do what they want with them, really,
Yeah, but I think, the moment you take anything that's even supposedly sacred, like Watchmen, and you take it and you turn it into action figures and motion comics and movies and video games, it loses its edge. It loses what makes it unique. It just becomes like a thinly veiled, like, dollar sign thing that it's not what it is anymore. It's just money making thing. That's what they see.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the important thing is that happened like 5 years ago now.
Yeah.
2009, I think.
Yeah, it was like 2008, 2009, something. I don't know. It happened a while ago. So
yeah,
I know it's on cable now, free cable. So if you want to watch Watchmen, tune into TBS.
Well, that's why I'm like, why are they doing this like now? Why didn't they do this like, I don't know, when Watchmen fever had gripped the nation.
Yeah, I don't know if that ever happened, but I mean, I guess I see what you're saying. You're thinking of it as more of a movie tie-in, but to me, I think that kind of stuff doesn't get people's attention in comics. I mean, it's like movie adaptations of Batman. It's like, who cares? They're going to go watch the movie, not buy the movie adaptation of the comic. And I think that's kind of the same feeling I have, whereas this is kind of like, hey, check us out, we're going to fuck around with your sacred cow, and so these people are getting all up in arms. But what's funny about it is, I know we do similar things where we had a podcast and we ripped apart Fear itself, but that was like a top-selling book, so it's like, obviously, even if stuff is bad and horrible, just like, the Transformer movies from Michael Bay or whatever, like, people spend money on it and go in droves. So, I mean, to me, I'm kind of like,
crap.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah, I'll just like give another like viewpoint. Like a good buddy of mine, he's like, he doesn't read comics now. Like growing up, me and him would read an issue of Wolverine or something, but he doesn't follow comics. We went and watched Watchmen. And he really liked it, but he's never read the comics. So I told him, hey, you should totally check out the comic. It's nothing like the movie. It's way better. And I told him about these prequels, and he seemed kind of interested. Like, he might check them out eventually. So maybe that's what DC's hoping for. Like people who are just vaguely curious about the comics. They might hear something new is coming up and be like, oh, something new.
Or even be like, oh, well, at the end of Watchmen, there was no bumper saying that I could read about the adventures of Watchmen in DC Comics, so they make comics now,
Well, and then it's true that media tie-in appeal, even after the fact, like Mike say, why do this now? But they might say, why not? Because you've got Buffy season 8 and season 9 in comic form, and then DC's picking up on that, and they're doing like Smallville season 11 or whatever the hell it's called, but they're making a Smallville comic book that takes place after the end of the TV series, because they know there's a market for that kind of thing. They know there's people that get, like what Justin's saying, they get slightly interested by what they see on the TV, but when they actually go to read the comics, they go, this Green Arrow's not the same guy from Smallville, and they kind of are uninterested in it. So you might as well give them what they want, which is Smallville.
I will say that Fanholes listeners, if we do survive the Mayan apocalypse, coming in January 2013, look for the Fanholes to make fun of Smallville, the ongoing comic, season 11.
if anybody actually reads it.
I was just gonna say, the more extreme hardcore fans of Watchmen might be like in regards to their sacred cowness, they might be like, "What? No, run, Bessie, run!" But I'm just kind of like, "Oh, you're pulling Bessie out of the stable, but I already put her to sleep, I'm gonna have to go get her,
Yeah.
I don't know, to me it's more like Bessie's decorated with Christmas tree lights, and she's got whipped cream on her nipples, and there's cherries on there, and there's just all kinds of fancy shit on it, and they're just pushing her out and putting her on a parade float and being like, "Check out Bessie, woo!"
I believe the technical term is udders, Derek. I don't know, but personally, yeah, I'm just kind of, I can take this or leave this, really.
No, I probably won't check it out at all, to be honest.
If you're listening, Fanholes listeners, basically Mike has said that the new Watchmen series will be the udders on an old cow.
It certainly won't be the bee's knees, I can tell you that.
And Derek has said he's just in it for the whipped cream, so.
100-year-old whipped cream. Yeah, my only thoughts is I don't think it's a good idea, but I've been proven wrong before, so if it is, we'll just have to wait and see. Before Watchmen is coming, so keep an eye out for that. There'll be more news coming out from that. We just have covers and creative teams right now, so yeah, keep an eye on that on the internet.
What are you waiting for? Do it.
The next topic that we were really wanting to get into, especially Derek and Justin, they seem pretty excited about this. Again, we're just going to do a roundtable thing. What do you like? What do you not like? Just going to kind of speak up about it. Earth 2, Derek's already given you the wherefores and why-whos and all that good stuff. I don't have a lot of input on this, so I'll just let you guys go at it. Earth 2, what do you think about it, guys?
I just wanted to add, I know we sort of talked about what Earth 2 was in relation to the creative teams and everything, but also there's going to be another book called World's Finest, and most people think of Superman and Batman when they think of World's Finest, but this is kind of related to the whole Earth 2 topic, because one of the other titles it's going to feature Huntress and Power Girl, who are basically the Earth 2
kind of Batman,
Supergirl and Batman's daughter, kind of thing. So yeah, and the writer on that is going to be Paul Levitz, and people probably know him best from his work on Legion of Superheroes and stuff like that. But he's been he's worked on a lot of DC books in the past and everything. I kind of like his writing style, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. And George Perez is going to do the interior art on it, which is also kind of a welcome treat for somebody like me. But yeah, I just wanted to add that was sort of
comic fan. Yeah, watch.
Well,
yeah, I mean George Perez. Come on.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that was some of the additional topics. Those two books, Earth 2 and World's Finest, are going to be part of the new 52, and replace some canceled books that are going to be on the cancellation block. So that's also a topic of discussion. That I know that Justin was interested in bringing up on this sidecast.
Yeah, what do you think about all this, Justin? I mean, I know you're actually a big fan. You're a big fan of the JSA, as far as I know, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I've been following their adventures since probably 2001, maybe 2002. Not long after, it came back with the new series and whatnot. But yeah, I'm a huge fan. there's some stuff that I'm like I'm really excited, but I'm actually, you know, a little like not wanting to get my hopes up. Like the cover for Earth 2, it shows like, I guess like the Earth 2 Trinity. It shows like, you know, Earth 2 versions of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. But there's some speculation going on that it, you know, it might not be Bruce Wayne, it might be Dick Grayson, it might be, you know, Donna Troy instead of, you know, Diana. So there's some speculation about that, but that's just the variant cover. You know, the little blurb that Derek, you know, read to you. It tells you pretty much it's going to feature, you know, Golden Age, Green Lantern, Wildcat, and Flash. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm just kind of like wondering exactly how it's going to be. You know, they're not calling it JSA, they're calling it Earth 2. So maybe it'll be something like the old All-Star Squadron, where you've got like, you know, just like a lot of old Golden Age characters working together, and, you know, maybe they'll throw in some weird twists and turns, because it looks like they're fighting like parademons on that cover. So I'm like, oh, are they going to fight Darkseid? Like that's kind of weird. Like, aren't they fighting Darkseid on Earth 1 already with the Justice League?
I was just going to throw in, just to let listeners know, they're not very well aware of what's going on with, like, the basic concept. JSA is basically a lot of Golden Age heroes who DC didn't want to get rid of, like Jay Garrick and Alan Scott and Wildcat Ted Grant. And they put them in the modern times, even though they are Golden Age heroes who were around with, like, Golden Age Superman and whatnot, and put them in modern times so they could train the younger generation. So JSA is not JLA. JSA is the Justice Society of America. I know there's a lot of listeners who do know that, but I just wanted to, like, you know, kind of give a little bit of backstory of, like, you know, why Earth 2 would be different from JLA. And, yeah, I just want to kind of clarify that. So.
I was just going to say, I thought it was interesting because, you know, James Robinson talked about, like, past and present type things. So, you know, to me, like, maybe this is my speculation, is the variant cover, you know, they all kind of, you know, Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman all kind of look pretty youthful in that cover. And I know most people who are longtime fans, you know, maybe they're used to, you know, the Superman with the gray temples and, you know, Batman basically getting old and being the police commissioner, and then, you know, croaking in, you know, his famous last battle in Adventure Comics, and, you know, Wonder Woman also kind of, you know, having gray hair and that kind of thing. So, you know, conceivably, you know, maybe that's the big, huge battle that happens in the past, you know, and in the modern times, it's like kind of a, you know, Infinity Incorporated, All-Star Squadron type thing, you know, where you've got, you know, older heroes, kind of like what Tony was saying, like Ted Grant, you know, training, you know, a bunch of new, you know, kids, you know, whoever those turn out to be, you know, whether it's like a Star-Spangled Kid or, you know, Joaquin Thunder or any of those guys. But I know Justin said, you know, he kind of grew up with the Justice Society, and he started reading, you know, the you know, JSA book, like in the, you know, 2001 or whenever, you know, 1990, you know, whenever that came out. I know, like, one of the first JSA books I ever read was with Tom Lyle doing the art, and then also the follow-up miniseries with Mike Parobeck, who is pretty famous for doing, like, all the Batman the Animated Series comics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He did, you know, all those JSA comics, and that's kind of where I really got to know most of the JSA and everything like that. But when they rebooted everything, you know, they kind of, you know, after Infinite Crisis, and they brought back the multiverse and all that kind of stuff, which is, you know, seemingly still around after this new 52 reboot, you know, that Earth 2 is, you know, a different Earth from, you know, whatever the primary Earth is, whether that's Earth 1 or, you know, whatever they're calling it these days. Those two, you know, universes are obviously separate, and it seems like we're going to get, you know, all new Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman with that universe too. So,
do you think that's kind of a mistake, though? Because, like, DC seems to do that a lot. They're like, all right, I am so tired. I'm sitting here with half a smoked cigarette. I am writing this story. I can't make it fit, so just make another fucking universe. And they always seem to, like, you know, say every few years, we're going to make all the universes coherent. We're going to make everything one story, one continuity. And then they always like, okay, Earth 2, you know?
Mm. Well, I think it depends on, like, the architects, because it seems like guys like Grant Morrison, you know, love the idea of hyper time and multiverse and all that kind of stuff, you know. I mean, even if I know some people like to say how Marvel Comics is coherent, but, you know, you've got Captain Britain and the League of 500 million Earths. I mean, that's why everybody calls the main Marvel universe 616. I mean, it's not like Marvel readers are unfamiliar with the concept of an alternate universe. Like
which
it's
is
just,
also a Moore thing too, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, and everything comes back to Moore. They're ransacking all his dead and rotted ideas.
Well, I actually really loved Moore's Excalibur run. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't bashing on it. So yeah.
It was more. He just wrote like the Captain Britain stuff, so that's where all that came from. But he never.
Claremont just kind of adapted.
Yeah. Claremont kind of took that and ran it into the fucking ground, I guess. But yeah.
I know there's been like a lot of people like saying, this is going to be kind of convoluted. Like they rebooted to like streamline things, and then it's like they like pull the rugs out from under you, and they're like, oh, by the way, check out what's going on in Earth 2. And people are like, what about the new readers? It's going to be confusing to them. And like me, I'm like,
that was my question. Yeah. It's like
me, like I kind of don't care about those new readers right now because like, No,
I understand that. As long as you're enjoying it, yeah, no problem, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like, look at it from, like, this point of view. It's like, are you going to worry about this book bringing in new readers or attracting new readers? Or are you going to think about the dollars and the dollar signs in your brain that you made with the old JSA books? Because before the reboot, you had 2 JSA ongoings, and they were pretty good selling books. So it's like, do you bring back these characters and reintroduce them to new fans and make it streamlined and make it make sense, or do you just go with it and bring back the old fans? And I think they should just go with it and bring back the old fans, like me and Derek.
And I don't think it's that big of a deal too either, because it's not like just because they slapped number 1s on a bunch of comics and restarted them and had a big Apple-ish marketing event doesn't mean that it doesn't mean like everybody who's never read a comic understands it. I mean, they had all these new readers try to read all the new comics, and a lot of them were still confused at the first issue. So, I mean, if somebody's going to be that confused...
Hell, I was.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, if you're confused, you're going to be confused unless you make a personal fucking effort not to be confused. It's kind of like what I always say. If you really want to know all the names of the fucking Pokemon, you're going to go out, learn them, play the game, do whatever it is, watch the TV show, and you're going to learn that shit. And if somebody has the capacity to do that, they have the same capacity to, sit down and go, you know what, I'm going to learn all the names of the JSA or the Legion of Superheroes because I want to get into this and follow this. But if they don't, if they have no vested interest in it and they're not interested in it, you know what, I have no problem with that. It's like if you don't want to learn it and it's not your thing, like somebody like Mike, like he's not too interested in the multiverse, he's not too interested in JSA. I mean, you could sit here and maybe try to get him to read some stuff or maybe try to explain some things, but if it's not his thing, ultimately, like, you can't cater to somebody where it's not their thing, because you're just going to change it and make it, Mike's thing. By the time you got through with it, the JSA would be, Hawkeye, Spider-Man, and Venom, running around in a Fantastic Four bathtub mobile or something. And by then, you might as well not call it the JSA. It doesn't mean that other thing is bad. It just means,
It's a new take, yeah.
I think if people are confused by the idea of parallel realities, then I'm like, why are you even reading a comic? We've had this idea in Next Generation, Fringe, Doctor Who. It's like if you don't understand parallel realities, why are you even bothering reading a comic book?
Well, I will bring up one thing that has been a topic of many fan outcries and stuff, and I know Derek is going to groan and he'll probably give a pretty decent rant. I'm hoping. If not, I'll be upset. Because I'm looking forward to it. A lot of fans, as far as the Earth 2, the only thing I know about it, as far as beyond the basic structure, is people are really pissed off about Power Girl not having a boob window in her new costume. And personally, myself, just give my little 2 cents. Yes, the boob window is nice. I am a male. I have a penis. Yes, seeing cleavage is pretty. But it doesn't define the character. If she's a cool character, fuck it. She doesn't need a boob window. Go.
Well, I feel sorry for that poor girl who always got dressed up as Power Girl at Dragon Claw's comic shop. down here by me, because I don't know what she's going to do now, because she's going to have a boob window. All I was going to say about it was, when I first saw the I guess, quote-unquote, new Power Girl costume for the World's Finest, like, to me, it kind of reminded me of, like, a Supreme costume. I don't know if you guys know the Image Comics character, but, kind of the way it kind of has gold in it, and it has the white and the red and everything, and it kind of reminded me of...
a wrestling forum I posted up actually said that. On a wrestling forum, somebody, mentioned Supreme, so you're not alone.
Okay, so maybe it's not just me, but that was the first thing I thought of when I saw it. I did read a lot of comments to people that were surprised. It didn't look like what to them was the, quote-unquote traditional Power Girl costume with the window. But it's funny because in the comics there's, like, lots of different, how shall I put it, explanations on why that is there and why it isn't there, You read some of the old All-Star Squadron stuff, and it seemed to come out in the 70s where there was a big wave of, feminism and everything like that. And if I remember correctly, and Justin can correct me if I'm wrong, because I haven't read these in a long time, but I think it was like Star Spangled Kid or somebody, and he basically says, like, dude, check it out. Like, I made you a big, like, how Superman has his S shield, and he's basically like, check it out. I made you, a P shield. Like, this is going to be awesome. And Power Girl's basically like, I'm a woman. Like, I don't need that P shield. Like, I made this costume to,
show my tits.
No. Well, I don't even think she had, like, the window in that issue.
No, she didn't.
Oh, okay.
Like it was just she's like, I made this costume to separate myself from my cousin. I want to have my own identity and so on and so forth. And that was the main gist of where she was coming from. And then, of course, if you read, like, the JSA Classified, where Jeff Johns has a run with Power Girl and everything, there's the explanation of, I could never live up to Superman, so now I have a boob window, which basically was like, she didn't feel worthy to wear the S shield. So there's this empty spot in her soul, where there's
I like the Amanda Conner drawn miniseries where basically she was like, I'm going to show my boobs to distract you and kick your ass.
Yeah, and so there's that, there's that explanation as well. Or like, I remember in that, they always kind of said, don't you have, like, a secret identity? Like, and she's always like, nobody's looking at my face, like, and so there's that kind of thing to it too. So I guess, some people kind of miss that aspect of it, probably, I'm sure. Personally, like, I don't know if I'm going to go into a huge rant about it, but, all I'm going to say is, like, there are plenty of comic books, plenty of miniseries where, she didn't always have what we're calling the boob window. Like, in fact, if you look at, like, that, it's like when Power Girl goes back to Earth 2, something that was a topic of confusion after Infinite Crisis was that there was already an Earth 2 Power Girl on Earth 2, even though she was the Earth 2 Power Girl. And that Earth 2 Power Girl did not have a boob window. So you may
the white beater she's wearing now, right?
Yeah, and it's like she basically probably just smacked her around and was like, who's this hoochie, like, claiming to be Power Girl? And she,
real Power Girls show their tits.
Yeah, or whatever. So
I just find it amusing, and I mean, that's what I was, like, waiting for your rant on. Not so much about the actual costume change, but just, like, how people get their panties in a bunch about it. It's not as much about, like, oh, you should defend Power Girl. It's just more along the lines of, like, you're that upset about that? Really?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I like Power Girl. I enjoyed, the comics that I've read. Like, I followed her, her career. Like, to me, she's a de facto member of the Superman family and always has been. So I've always, even when they tried to make her, like, an Atlantean and have nothing to do with Superman, during the Byrne Man of Steel days, like, I still kind of consider her, part of Superman lore. So I do follow her adventures, kind of like the same way, when I was a kid, I liked He-Man, and sort of by default, I kind of, watched She-Ra because I was like, well, this is He-Man's sister. Like, I'm gonna keep up on what's going on in He-Man's family.
Have sex with her on a horse, but she's still cool.
Or whatever, like that kind of thing. So, but as far as, I don't know. I don't take too much, I wasn't going to get too upset about like a costume change or anything. I'm more happy about like, oh, the creative team announced seems pretty solid. Like, I'm looking forward to it. It takes place on Earth 2. And, to me, I mean, I know it's kind of weird because I know some people like Tony, you're even saying, wasn't it confusing? Like, to me, I'm kind of happy. I'm like, when they made Power Girl Superman's cousin again, like that just made me happy. When I just read that
which actually was Infinite Crisis.
yeah, and in this blurb they basically sort of announced like the Huntress is actually Helena Wayne. It's actually Batman's daughter with Catwoman. Like that made me happy. I mean, to me, like one of my favorite stories is when Batman and Catwoman on Earth 2 finally got together and got married and everything. Like, I love that story. Like, I think it's kind of sweet and nice, and, I really like
You kind of like the whole sensible resolution to it, yeah.
Yeah, or whatever. Like, to me, like, it doesn't necessarily, like, I mean, that's kind of what those alternate universes are good for. It's like maybe in the real world, or the Earth 1 world or whatever, you would never have Catwoman and Batman do something like that. But here, they could get married, they could grow old together, they could have a daughter, the daughter can fight crime. Like, I don't know why, I always liked that idea. That's cool. And, also in the back of my head, I always kind of think like, I don't know, characters I like for some reason, I kind of was like, what? It's like characters I like Gohan or, even to some degree, Batman and stuff, I'm like, well, all those characters always end up having daughters. So I'm like, I bet I'll end up having a daughter too, because like all those characters.
And she'll fight crime.
Yeah, so.
Well, no, I mean, that's cool. I mean, like I said, me and Mike are kind of woefully uninformed on this concept coming out. I do know a little bit about the JSA, so I mean that's actually cool that you guys are stoked about it. I guess the only question I would have is, as comic companies are want to do you see a crossover coming from this?
Yeah,
like JSA versus the reboot universe.
You know what I would like to see? I would like to see the Earth 2 JSA meet the Earth 1 Justice League, and for good measure, and like maybe a throwback to the good old days, like throw in the Crime Syndicate. Like that would be awesome.
I miss the Crime Syndicate. There's some one of my favorite direct DVD titles was still Crisis on Different Worlds or whatever, Crisis on Two Earths. Yeah, I really love James Woods as friggin' Owlman.
It doesn't matter.
Even the creative team on Earth 2. I mean, I like James Robinson a lot. He did Starman, and then he also did the Golden Age miniseries, which was an Elseworlds that focused on, the JSA and All-Star Squadron and those kind of guys. So, and I think if anybody's not read the Golden Age, they should at least check that out if they want to, kind of maybe have an idea of what's in store for them, because that's a really... I think it's a great Elseworlds book. So
yeah,
that's cool. I am going to throw something out to you guys. I did not prep this; it just kind of came into my head. I myself don't have any titles, but I know you three probably do. Since this is a current comics podcast, we're talking about recent news. And if you don't have any prep time, I understand if you want to just bow out. But what's some current titles you guys may be into right now? Whoever wants to say throw out a title that's really good right now.
I've been reading the new Defenders ongoing. That's been a lot of fun. Like I've always liked the Defenders. It's like they're kind of the anti-Avengers. They don't have a charter or anything. They just get together and they're dysfunctional.
Is it kind of like the original team, like Iceman, Doctor Strange? No, not Iceman, but Doctor Strange, Hulk, and Silver Surfer and Namor. Well,
Hulk is not there. Like basically, Hulk forms them to have them go kill Null, which is they explain Null as being the Hulk's Hulk. He's this Black Hulk thing, and basically it's Namor, Doctor Strange, and Surfer, and for good measure you throw in the Red She-Hulk and Iron Fist.
Cool.
And it's been a lot of fun. And just to go back to some Earth 2 stuff really quick, DC announced that they're going to publish a showcase version of All-Star Squadron, which means you'll get the first 20-some issues, but it's going to be, a black and white fun book.
Oh, cool.
Come on, bring your Crayola crayons. Yeah.
Make Snapper Car yellow. Oh, sorry. I've been on a snapper car kick. Excuse me. What about you, Mike? Is there any current titles? I know one that me and you do share right now, Secret Brothers, if you're going to mention it, but what's some good comics you enjoy right now?
Yeah, I'll mention, the Transformer books are firing on all cylinders right now, especially more than meets the eye, the James Roberts book. Enjoying the hell out of that, out of the first 2 issues. And the other book, Robots in Disguise, that one isn't too shabby either. Like the
Surprised the hell out of me, did it?
Yeah, the first issue of that was really decent too. So the next issue of that will be out this coming week too. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Also, I just wanted to mention the second issue of Scarlet Spider was really good too. So I'm hoping that book sticks around for a while too. Chris Yost and Ryan Stegman on art both do a very good job, and I dig the Clone Saga, so it's cool. It's like Kane gets his own city and villains to fight. So I'm looking forward to where that series goes.
Good little bit of world building there, huh?
Yeah.
Cool. I don't have too much to add. Like I said, I don't read comics as much as I used to. But on the Transformers series from IDW, especially more than meets the eye, I will echo Mike's statements on that. If you got burned by IDW in the past, we're going to do a podcast about them later, so I won't go too much into it. But yeah, definitely pick them up. I echo your statement again. Firing on all cylinders. They are really getting a good little groove going on, so totally check those out. And Derek, what's some good comics you may have read recently that are bee's knees, as Justin would say?
Bee's knees? I enjoyed, I've been keeping up with Animal Man, and I still enjoy that. I was a little worried it was going to go into, kids and wife killing for a little bit.
Yeah.
I was starting to get worried. I was like, oh, please don't kill his family again. I can't take it again, but actually, that didn't happen. And, I like Gohan type characters and stuff like that. And it looks like his daughter, Maxine, is kind of turning out to be that way, where, she has a little Gohan in the space pod moment where she's like, leave my dad alone, and she freaks out and uses her, her powers in the red to mess up all the bad guy shit and stuff like that. Seems like they're saying that Buddy was just kind of like the protector and sort of in a way a fluke where, he has powers, but he was just given the powers to sort of protect his daughter, and she's the real cheese, basically, and is what everybody's kind of going to be fighting over and stuff like that. And, she's kind of the main, spirit of the red and that kind of thing. And it looks like, the red and the green, are coming together because it looks like, Animal Man and Swamp Thing are leading towards, a big team up to fight the Rot, which is basically supposed to be like the evil, decay that's, basically attacking both Swamp Thing and Animal Man and his daughter and stuff like that. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing them team up. Those are both pretty good books, at least that I've enjoyed following.
Yeah.
And
Eric Trocitus is like, I thought I was the red.
Yeah, exactly. He's all mad.
I will go back to both topics though, just in case anybody had anything they wanted to add in. Watchmen, Earth 2. Anybody have anything else they want to add about those two series really that are coming out from DC?
I don't know. I think I was hard pressed to see why someone would want to buy the Pirate comic. The one.
I saw that cover. Yeah.
I think it's just a backup in all the miniseries, but still, I guess I know thematically why it works in the original, but I'm kind of
the Spirit of the Ghost Ship or something.
Well, it was interesting because I know we were talking about Animal Man, and I just wanted to bring this up, but in one of the recent issues of Animal Man, the first, I'd say 20 pages of the issue, I know this might be kind of odd, but it basically had nothing to do with Animal Man. It was more like a movie that his kid was watching that he did stunt work in or something on his PSP or his, portable, gaming device or whatever. And to me, I always kind of thought if you were actually going to update Watchmen, I know that, it's sacrilegious because I'm a comic guy, but it's you wouldn't have the kid reading a comic book. He would actually be, reading it on either an e-reader or, a iPad or watching a video on, a PSP or something, which I thought was really cool in that Animal Man issue, and so like I just wanted to sort of throw that out there.
Cool. Yeah, that's pretty much our thoughts on the whole Earth 2 and Watchmen. One may be a debacle, it may be cool. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you know which one I'm talking about. The other one sounds like, from other people, especially, like I said, Derek and Justin, might be a pretty cool series. I myself like the older heroes myself, so I am not going to judge too harshly on it. Boob window or not.
Hey, worst case scenario, even if Dr. Manhattan just walks around Laurie's mattress in a square for like 20 pages, like you'll know that like all the art will look really pretty. So
It'll be fantastic, yeah. Be really pretty comics. If they're not good, they'll be pretty. I can't even say that for Dark Knight Strikes Back. That was pretty horrible art. Anyway, such a bad comic. Anyway, the whole point of this, though, is to give you some little bit introspective looks at new comics, new events coming out. That's kind of why we do the sidecast. A little bit more current, a little bit more in your face. It's extreme, and now we're going to get sent to the moon. And die on our way to our home planet. But until then, we appreciate you folks listening to the sidecast and the podcast on Fanholes Blogspot. We have a lot more stuff coming out. I will pimp it later on a proper podcast, so I'm not even going to go there. Until then, I am Tony Chainclaw, and by the way, Scum? My name is Scum! Wait, that doesn't sound right.
Hey, what's up? This is Derek WC. Did we win the sidecast? Hell yes!
It's Mike Thunderwing, and I draw the line at before Golden Oldie Aunt May prequel comics.
And this is Justin Grimlock, and I've got some plane tickets in my back pocket, and I'm going to fly to Europe and make some goblin babies with Gwen Stacy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll see you next time on the Fanholes SideCast, and can I get a piece from somebody?
Peace.
Well done.
War.
Famine.